All right, cool. I don't really have a plan for this video, but I guess I'm going to talk about 21 movies I saw in 2021. These aren't necessarily like the best movies I saw this year or the worst movies I saw this year. There's movies I want to talk about. Lots of them are going to be good because I want to good movies make you want to talk about them. So, yeah, let's talk about some movies. Also, I have to have seen it for the first time this year. I can't have like seen it previously and then I just rewatched it this year because it's like one of my favorite films. No. Seeing it for the first time in 2021. First off, starting with the two Edward Yang films I saw this year. I'm a big fan of Edward Yang and his work. Yi Yi is my favorite movie of all time. I've been kind of slowly moving through his filmography. Kind of need a bit of a rest break between Edward Yang films. They are a bit intense, but every so often you get in the mood for an Edward Yang film, and that's what I did. I ended up seeing two this year. The first was Terrorizers. I'm going to talk about Terrorizers first. Terrorizers is honestly like my least favorite Edward Yang film that I've seen so far. It's still incredible. It's just that like so many of his films are like 10 out of 10 for me. And Terrorizers, I think, doesn't quite live up to that. So like it still made me cry and all this stuff. But I feel like it really hits its emotional peak like in the center of the film instead of at the end of the film. So it kind of gives you time to calm down. I think if it had kept up that emotional intensity, I think it could have done a lot better. It's still like a really great film though. A lot of interesting meditations on relationships really, and how we approach relationships and how they can destroy us essentially, in more ways than one. I think what's really great about a lot of Edward Yang films is that they just encapsulate so much, and it's kind of difficult to talk about them because of that. And a lot of them do deal with relationships, including the next Edward Yang film I saw this year. This is actually his first film, I believe. It's called That Day on the Beach. This film is very interesting. It's like one of his more dreamlike films, I'd say, because it's very non-linear. Just talking about like a lot of individual distinct memories of certain relationships that and it all comes together like really beautifully. It's very heart-wrenching. It's very sad. I don't know. That was also I think the fifth Edward Yang film I've seen, and you kind of like you can start to like see the patterns by that point, but even then, it's still just like really just an incredible film. Would highly recommend. It's honestly not a bad Edward Yang film to start out with either. I think very cool, very hip, very good films. Would highly recommend watching any Edward Yang film, pretty much. He's, like I said, he's like my favorite director. So yeah, watch those films this year. Start off on a sad note. Also, some of these films I saw like way back in January, so I don't necessarily remember them too well, but I will try and talk about them. I ordered this list in such a way that it doesn't make any sense. Next, we're talking about Kirikou and the Sorceress. This film was in French. This film was so much fun, honestly. The music is like, I don't know why I go with music, but the music is so good. A lot of the animation, the visuals are really like wild and entertaining. Kind of the story, it's like based off of folktales. So the story has that kind of fun folktale fantasy to it. It's got like the happy ending and all that stuff. And like the main character Kirikou, he's like really charismatic, even though he's like a child, and like we tend to hate children actors and as voice actors and stuff like that. But nah, Kirikou's cool, man. It was just like a lot of fun, and I really like the animation, the style as well. Yeah, really, really cool film. It's short. It's like 70-ish minutes, I think. I think it's also like on Criterion, or at least it was when I watched it. So check it out. Kirikou and the Sorceress. Would recommend. All right, this next film is also a short animated film. It's Such a Beautiful Day, animated by Don Hertzfeldt. This is my second favorite film of all time, probably. It's kind of incredible just how deep this goes. Like, it's only 60 minutes, and even then, like, on the surface, It's Such a Beautiful Day doesn't honestly say a lot, but it's really about relating to I guess like personal experience and your personal fears, honestly, your personal thoughts and feelings about death and life, and also like what is the meaning of life. Don Hertzfeldt has another animated short that's just called The Meaning of Life, so something that I'm sure he ponders himself very often. It's Such a Beautiful Day is really, I guess, more about appreciating life, and that's it's a very important lesson, but it's also just, it's a very depressing film. So make sure you have the tissues ready when you watch it. It's great. Like I said, it's like my second favorite film of all time. It's also pretty intense. Again, the order I put this list in makes no sense, because the next film I'm talking about is Dog Day Afternoon, starring Al Pacino, directed by Sidney Lumet. So like, me and my roommates late one night were like, we want to watch a movie. I was like, well, what genre movie do y'all want to watch? And they were like, a heist film. And I was like, I'm not familiar with the heist genre, really. Let me look up good heist films. And this movie came up, and it is a heist film. It is it is far from like the heist film I was expecting, but it is a heist film. It's more of a heist gone wrong film, based on a true story, and I know it very much embellishes that true story. It makes for very, very entertaining film. I really like how this film like portrays the tensions between the criminals, Al Pacino and his pal, the hostages, the police, and the crowd. The interactions between those four groups. I think this movie really excels at just kind of exploring those interactions. That, and Al Pacino gives an incredible performance, and so does John Cazale. Just really, the two of them really carried this film like a lot. Just like all around, just a really well made film. Really kind of keeps you wanting to watch, and it has its like it's suspenseful, because you're just like waiting to see kind of what goes wrong next. But it's also like, it has its lighthearted, funny moments too, especially at the beginning of the film when everything is just going wrong. But yeah, no, it's like, this film's really great. Really love it. Had a good time watching it, and hopefully you will too. So this next film on my list is Tale of Tales, a animated short film. It's like 30 minutes, by Yuri Norstein. It's Russian. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly. I'm gonna be honest with you. I saw this film in a very low quality YouTube video, and it amazed me as a low quality YouTube video. So I can't imagine what it's like to see it in like actually good quality. Very sad, I think, is the first way of putting it. Like, in 30 minutes, it really approaches so much stuff, so many thoughts and feelings, specifically around memory. It kind of reminds me of Everywhere at the End of Time, but like it's very different from that too, but just in how it uses specific aesthetics to approach its themes. And it's a very like beautiful film. Again, it's also like, it kind of defies description. It's really something that you just like have to experience. and I would recommend you. I mean, like, it's only 30 minutes long, and it's not like it's sad. It's not make you cry sad. It's more just like sad, you know. But yeah, it's really good. Would recommend. Next up, I want to talk about Blade Runner 2049. This film's amazing, really. I saw both Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 pretty early on in the year, like literally within a couple days of each other. I had never seen either one before, and I gotta say, I really love Blade Runner 2049. I think it's way better than the original Blade Runner. It is a sequel, but it's also not really a sequel. I feel like you could see it stand alone and not really miss out on much. I do think it works better if you have seen Blade Runner, although it kind of contradicts that film. There's a lot in this film that I really like about it. I mean, I'll just start listing off things. I think the color palette looks really cool. I think the entire visual aesthetic really of Blade Runner 2049 is really incredible, and I definitely prefer it to the original Blade Runner. And I know a lot of people really like the visual aesthetic of the original Blade Runner. Just like the cinematography as well is really good considering how CG this movie is. And I feel like you don't really typically see that with CG movies, but like, I mean, Denis Villeneuve is a fantastic director, and he's really kind of mastered that part of his craft, this sci-fi art, I guess. I mean, it's really art, the way he makes his films. I think the way Blade Runner 2049 explores its themes, I like a lot more than the original Blade Runner as well. And I think Blade Runner 2049, good film. I enjoy it. Saw it a long time ago, but it looks really cool. So that's a big plus. Also, man, Jared Leto, I'm not the biggest Jared Leto guy, don't get me wrong, but man, does he do really well in some roles. It's foreshadowing. Keep that in mind. Next up is My Life as a Zucchini. This is a like 60-ish minute claymation French animated film that's about orphans, really. Well, they're not all orphans, but they've been put into kind of the foster home system in France. This film is like cute and heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time, because it's really just about these children and how life treats them, how they go through life, how life can be difficult for them, and their position. I believe it's based off a book and also seemingly like interviews with actual children. Also, don't think that it's made for kids just because it's claymation and about kids. This film was rated PG-13. They talk about willies exploding at one point, so you know. Also has some very adult themes, and also just makes you feel bad for some of the kids, because it's like, yeah, that's real life. There are real people like that. They're not just funny little clay French kids. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about Klaus. There's a lot of animated films on this list. I just noticed that. But yeah, Klaus, this is an animated film. It's a Netflix original, I believe. It's a Christmas origin story, Santa origin story, whatever. I had seen clips of this film before I watched it. The animation is like beautiful, and I knew that already. I wasn't really expected to be amazed by the story or anything like that, but like, this film kind of made me tear up a couple times. It's just like super heartwarming, and I think it really, I'm not the biggest like Christmas fan or anything, but it does try, and I think it's one of the best films I've seen that justifies Christmas, if that makes sense. Like, and how it talks about like the giving gifts just to make other people happy, and like how that should be your goal. I guess not. You shouldn't be giving gifts out of like personal interest, that kind of thing. which I'm sure does happen plenty. But it's a really, really heartwarming film. Really, really good film. Again, it looks beautiful. I was even I knew it looked beautiful, and I was still amazed that it looked so beautiful when I watched it. So, would highly recommend. Klaus. Foreshadowing paid off. Requiem for a Dream. Man, Jared Leto is really good in some roles. This film, it makes you feel bad. Specifically, the ending is anxiety inducing, I guess is the best word for it. That song that plays during the end, it's a really good song. It's very anxiety inducing. This whole movie is just kind of like people's lives falling apart. This film, it gets to the heart of like why people do drugs and how drugs affect their lives, how even trying to stop or having stopped doing drugs still have an effect on your life. And like the very lows of addiction and just how far some people struggle with addiction. Really good film. Lots of this film is like, man, it's not super like enjoyable to watch. It's not like super like sad or anything either, but it's a really well made film. Director Darren Aronofsky is he's a very good director. I think there's actually another one of his movies later on the list. Spoiler alert. But the film is well made, well shot, well acted. Would highly recommend if you're looking for a film about drugs. And it's not like Trainspotting, don't worry. Although that film is also about drugs. Very good film about drugs. Anyways, this next film is not about drugs. This is Playtime. Jacques Tati, that beautiful man. So Playtime, I've been meaning to watch like Jacques Tati and his Monsieur Hulot. Sorry, I don't speak French. But like those films for a while. I guess I was kind of prompted by a video game donkey video to watch Playtime, and man, is this film like great. It's pretty much all like visual gags, so make sure you're paying attention because the kind of insanity of this film comes from the world that these characters live in and just how modern it is, but like it's taking modernity too far. Everything is just like gray and bland. There are people trying to clean things and there's nothing to clean. It's a whole bunch of mayhem kind of ensues. There's like just a lot of great gags in this film. I think it's a very, very funny, very entertaining film. And the entire sequence in the restaurant is absolutely incredible. It's like one of my favorite comedic sequences, I think, in any film. There's so many things going on in that time that you have to like you have to keep track of literally like everything in your head. And it's very entertaining, very fun. Would recommend. There's not like a ton of dialogue, so don't be afraid to approach this film. I know like comedies can be a bit lost in translation sometimes, but nah, Playtime, very, very good. All right, next we got The World's End, directed by Edgar Wright. I'm not like really a big Edgar Wright fan, but this film is easily my favorite Edgar Wright film. I think this film, what makes it so good to me is that kind of the emotional impact of this film, I think, is far greater than any other Edgar Wright film. Essentially, the theme of this film is that we are fuck-ups, and it's our right to be fuck-ups, but we also kind of have to deal with the consequences of us being fuck-ups. A lot of Edgar Wright's films are just ridiculous, which is kind of their entertaining quality. At least the Cornetto trilogy is ridiculous. But the ridiculousness of this film, I think, kind of takes it to a whole nother level, and I really like love that. I don't know. This film is one. It's like it's very entertaining. It has kind of the emotional depth that I think is lacking in other films of his, and really, really well done. Really appreciate The World's End. Best Edgar Wright film. I don't know if that's probably a hot take. So next on the list, this is Spinal Tap. This is a mockumentary from the 80s, 84 actually, directed by Rob Reiner. It's a mockumentary, like a comedy mockumentary about a music group, Spinal Tap, as they go on tour. First of all, there's just a lot of great jokes I want to say. It makes fun of music, which, as someone who is very into music, it's also, well, it's specifically making fun of like bands that were going out of style at the time, which I think very, very fitting for the time. Just like making fun of music and the scene and stuff like that, I think it does well at that. It knows what it's talking about, but also just like making fun of the industry and how ridiculous the music industry can be sometimes. I think it's very fair. Really, really good film. Would recommend. It's also like, it's pretty short. This is Spinal Tap. It's like a classic or something. I don't know. Next up, this film, Koyaanisqatsi. This is like it's not really a film. It's been described as a visual poem, which I think is a very apt description. There are no words in this film. It is just a series of images and a beautiful, beautiful soundtrack by Philip Glass. Really like one of my favorite Philip Glass soundtracks. And it kind of just shows, in a sense, just progress. I don't really want to, it's kind of weird. I don't really want to spoil it. I definitely feel like Koyaanisqatsi is a film to be experienced, to be something you have to see. Goes well with drugs, I hear. Don't know that from experience. No, if you just want to kind of like vibe out for an hour, Koyaanisqatsi it's great. I think the way it makes its point with really only saying one word, which is the title, how it uses its visuals to such a great effect, is truly incredible. All right. Next up, we have The Holy Mountain, directed by Alejandro Jodorowsky. I don't really know how to pronounce his name, but I'm trying my best. This film is wacky. This is like a sci-fi parody of religion, I guess. Like, I don't know. This film is so weird, and it goes in so many different directions. But like, it all pays off pretty well at the end. It's tough to describe. I can't really like talk much about this film without like spoiling it, I think. Definitely watch this film if you're interested in like weird films that are really good, because this is a weird film that is really good. But like, I really appreciate this film and just how weird it is. I think that's the biggest thing for me, is I like that aspect. It's like, it's very unique, and I'm not like the biggest fan of its message. It's hard to even pinpoint like a single message to this film. I think it makes a lot of different comments that I appreciate, but its overall message, I don't know, less so. But I still like a great film. Ah, shit, Under the Skin. Fucking love this film. It's by that dude who did The Thing. The Thing is called Under the Skin. Jonathan Glazer. Yeah, this film. Under the Skin, directed by Jonathan Glazer, starring Scarlett Johansson. This one's pretty intense. I'm trying to figure out how to talk about this film without spoiling it either. Like, definitely watch this film. Essentially just Scarlett Johansson going around exploring power in gender role. Sort of. That's not the worst description of this film. I wouldn't say it's the best description of this film, but it's not the worst description of this film. This film is just like, it's very cool. It can be a bit slow. Usually I'm not the biggest fan of slow films, but this one kept me thoroughly invested the entire time. I really like the atmosphere this film creates. I feel like for me, a lot of slow films, they kind of die with me because I'm not really invested in their atmosphere. Um, that is not the case here at all. This film was really good, I think. Also pretty heavy film. Yeah, what did I put up next? Fucking shit, let's go Gatica. Yeah. I feel like Gatica is a film that like people watch in their high school bio class and they never really think about it again. They're like, "Oh, that was a good movie. Back in high school, I saw that in bio class. I liked that movie." I never saw Gattaca in my high school bio class. I saw Gattaca for the first time this year as a 21-year-old man who's not in bio class. I haven't taken a bio class in years. I feel like most people, Gattaca kind of gets pitched to them, and how they remember it is it's warning us about like this not so distant future and the kind of geneticism. I guess the word, the genetic elitism. I'll just use that term. I feel like it's more clear. The genetic elitism of that future and how we could easily turn into that genetically elitist society. Yes and no. Part of Gattaca is that it is a society where genetics determine who you are and what you can be. Our current society, we fuck it. we live in a society where genetics determine who you are and what you can be. Like Gattaca is about the present, not the future. And I feel like that point flies over a lot of people's heads. And I wish people appreciate this film more because it's so good in proving that point. And I think it's because it's so good, most people don't even realize. Yeah, no, like, and also, oh my God, this Gattaca is just like a really good film. It's just also a really well made film. There are some suspense points that I honestly didn't see coming. Back to the racism point. The kind of genetic investigators are called Hoovers for a reason. But yeah, Gattaca, great film. Would highly recommend like watching Gattaca. Like I was legitimately so blown. Like I wasn't expecting to like Gattaca that much because I had always heard about it, as that movie that people watched in high school bio class. It's about genetics, and it's like, oh my God, it's so much more than that. Anyways, I'm very passionate about Gattaca. I saw my list. Ooh, Black Swan, another Darren Aronofsky film. This film is good. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I guess this film is like kind of about how passion can turn into obsession and how that can be unhealthy. It's a very interesting kind of take on it. I think the visuals in this film are very impressive. I think Natalie Portman does a great job. I think Mila Kunis does a less great job, but as far as Mila Kunis roles go, still pretty good. There's like a lot of little details in this film that I really appreciate and I think could go unnoticed on a first watch. I mean, I've only seen it once, so maybe there's even things I missed too. I would recommend watching Black Swan. I think it's very good. No, this is another seasonal film. This is Hocus Pocus. I never saw Hocus Pocus as a kid. Only saw it as an adult this year with all my adult friends. There were like 5 of us in that room on Halloween. We didn't get any trick-or-treaters, but we watched all of Hocus Pocus. It was honestly really fun. This film's really fun. It's kind of like dumb and stupid like a Disney film. Yeah, but I don't know. I was like smiling the whole time. I had a great time watching it, honestly. I would highly recommend watching Hocus Pocus when you just want to have if you just ever want to watch like a dumb fun Halloween movie that's not scary. Hocus Pocus it's the good shit, way better than Halloween Town. Way better. Halloween Town doesn't even hold a fucking candle to Hocus Pocus. Anyways, next up, this is another weird movie. This is The Flying Luna Clipper. This is a very obscure Japanese short film from the 80s? 1987, The Flying Luna Clipper. It's like all done in the animation of a specific computer, the MSX. There's a bunch of like anthropomorphic fruits and vegetables and plants and stuff that do things. It's like kind of weird to describe, but they're like going on a trip on the Flying Luna Clipper, and it is very trippy, very weird. I I really appreciate like how weird it is. I really like the music too. I think the music is one of the things that like kind of really pulls the film together. But the visuals in this film are very interesting. There's not a film that's done in this style. I think if you'll watch it, you'll know why, but I can appreciate this film and its style. I think it's still like really entertaining for what it is. Like truly like one of a kind, unique movie. And the last film, this is, I think, the only film I wouldn't recommend. Well, okay, I would still recommend that you watch it, but I wouldn't recommend that you watch it expecting it to be good. It's kind of a dishonorable mention, if you will. It's number 21. Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mists. This is one of like, I know I said that The Flying Luna Clipper was weird. This film is weirder. It's truly one of the most like surprising films I think I've ever seen. Like I never know what's going to happen next in this film. It's off the wall bonkers. There are so many just weird decisions made with the story. This is the only film I'm going to spoil. Okay, like fucking aliens show up at one point that live underwater that I don't understand. And it's like, there's this like giant waterfall, like Journey to the Center of the Earth shit. Like that. What? It doesn't make any fucking sense. And on top of that, the film is just bad. Like, this is like the first film I believe done with like entirely motion capture, and you can certainly tell it was mocap, and by golly gee does it look bad and very unnatural and really, really funny. Like if you want to just laugh at how absolutely garbage a film is, oh my god, Sinbad is perfect. Like it is so hilarious. And it's really kind of interesting too, because this film is like, it has a lot of big name voice talent, like Brendan Fraser, Leonard Nimoy, Mark Hamill are in this film. They're voices in this film. It's all animated though. Also those actors, despite their talent, are not the ones doing the mocap. They're just doing the voices. Other people are doing the mocap to the voices. And you can tell. Yeah, Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mist. Would highly recommend. Best film ever made. Best film ever made. Yeah, that was 21 films I saw in 2021 that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to now edit this video and see if I can make it 21 minutes long. And I will fail. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day. Like and subscribe to the channel. Comment if you want to. That'd be cool. I'm so sorry. So, you like Homestuck? This video is also a mess. I've just been making messy videos recently. I'm sorry for the bad content.